So one of the big things I would say over the last few years has been the discussion of mental health. Just knowing, I guess maybe even the status of your mental health, taking care of your energy and all of that. So, like, have you dealt with anxiety? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
I am, I think, a naturally anxious person. I definitely have anxiety.
Right.
I think we all have anxiety.
Right.
But let me just speak for myself. I definitely, my anxiety comes from myself.
Yeah. But why do you think it started? I think all of that stuff starts from somewhere. So, have you pinpointed it?
Absolutely.
Okay. So
Yes.
where do you think your anxiety started from?
My anxiety, where it all stems from, childhood, your
Okay.
childhood. However, you going a little bit deep, it gets deeper than that because it's deeper than your childhood. It's about your parents' childhood and
Right.
their parents' childhood and
Right.
everybody's childhood.
Right.
So, it begins to come into one. I just think for me, most of my anxiety comes from me just having to, I'm an overachiever. I'm super proactive, and I think sometimes honestly too proactive, and that gives me a lot of anxiety.
Why are you like that? Like, what makes you want to overachieve? Is it because you felt like you weren't good enough, doing good enough, or wasn't hearing it enough? What?
So I think seeing my mom's example. My mom is she super independent woman, strong black woman, get shit done, and I can see how that was definitely passed down to me to where I felt like I had to do it all, and not necessarily, I may not have told myself I had to do it all. However, I wasn't taking it easy on myself and showing myself like, girl, why is you don't have to do all that. I'm literally just now, like at 27, getting to a point where it's like, I don't have to do it. Like, why am I even taking on all this stuff? Like, because most of the time it is other people's, like, I'm not gonna say issues, but it's more so like other people's circumstances, because that's just the passion in me.
Okay.
Always giving a fuck about people is my anxiety.
Right. Give me an example.
So many. Just always feeling the need to fix and save people. I think probably provokes a lot of my anxiety because that's, like their energies onto me, which I obviously take on without people, because a lot of time people don't say like, hey, like, feel this way or take this on. That's me, and I'm learning that that's something that I need to work on, within myself. So yeah, you gotta fall back sometimes,
right.
And
so,
it's okay to fall back.
Like, do you think that comes from people not trying to take care of you or look out for you?
Like so I don't want to blame my mama, but right. I got to blame my mama, if that makes sense. And the reason why I say that is because, like, I see it so actively now. Like, my mom is always doing something for somebody, like, to this day. And I, like, the older I am now, I connect with my mom on, like, a woman-to-woman level. It's kind of like I want to understand what my mom is going through as a woman, and I try to, like, take away the position of me being her child, because I know she is, like, outside of a mom, she's her whole, you get what I'm saying, a whole different woman. So the more I pay attention to her habits, I see a lot within myself, to where it's kind of like, yeah, just always giving, always acts of service, always doing for people, which I think is great. Definitely great. I would rather
not taking time for herself.
Yeah, it's a lack of self-worth and self-love. Like, it's when you putting more into other people than you putting into yourself. And I definitely picked up that habit, right, without even knowing.
But could it be maybe that's where she feels the worth? Sometimes, like, people give so they can feel better. Sometimes it's not always a genuine thing, and then sometimes it is, but sometimes it's like, I'm gonna do for them just because it made me feel good to, do.
See, no, we did, like, when I tell you, And I know that spirit that I'm speaking of my mom because I have it, and I'm super genuine, super like if this shit ain't genuine, I'm not doing it. Like I'm not about to waste my time, my energy, my effort because I know the type of power that I possess out here. So I just I just wouldn't be fucking around with it. So if it's not genuine, I'm not doing it. So and my mom is the same way. I'm definitely a lot like my mom, which we get into it a lot now, and I think she realized like, oh, this is my daughter for real. And yeah, girl, I am. So but yeah, I try to have these conversations with her now just because I am more self-aware, and I also am realizing that all these conversations I cannot have with her.
Right.
And and that's okay. Like, I'm okay with that. I'm a grown-ass woman. I'm learning to validate my own feelings, my own experiences, my own truth, whatever that may look like outside of my mom or my dad or my sibling or, hell, anybody trying to tell me what my truth is. So, yeah. But, yeah, just being too fucking nice. Need to work on boundaries.
So, like, what are some things that you're doing for people that you feel like, man, I'm just doing too much.
Energy.
Just energy.
Absolutely.
Just caring too much about that situation.
Yeah.
Relationship.
Absolutely. And like, don't get me wrong, like money, shit like that, I don't like, that's always a given. Like when I say I'm giving according to the situation. So if a person lacks finances, then I'm giving finances. If a person lacks emotional support, then I'm giving emotional support. If a person is lacking a ride, I got my car. You get what I'm saying? So it really just depends on the circumstance. I really can't say that I am not biased. Like I've given all types of help.
Right. And so when do you stop?
Right, P. When do I stop?
Yeah.
When the fuck do I stop?
We talked about this earlier, right? It's
yeah, like we did.
For me, it's like I believe in reciprocation. It's like I don't mind looking out for you, but I need you to know I need you to know that I'm looking out for you, and you should do the same.
Absolutely.
And it's kind of like, and I also believe in like real action. It's not like you
doing something to say that you did this for me,
right? Or you coming to me about a situation and I don't want to do something about it. You know what I'm saying? So like a lot of times, even with Bianca's, like we talking sometimes, and I gotta make sure I understand when she's expressing whatever, that I'm fully aware that what she's kind of asking for.
Yeah.
Because what happens is, it could be a situation where she just kind of expressing herself, but in my mind, I need to know that, because then I'm like, all right, here's the solution.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
So you solution focused. You like to focus on what can we do?
We need to get, because even with, I guess, maybe, I don't know if it's the personality thing, but sometimes, like, if I'm feeling something, I don't always say it. You know what I'm saying? And so, I mean, that, it kind of shows its head in different ways where I'm not expressing what I really feel or whatever. I'm kind of holding everything in. But a lot of times, or with certain situations, I don't express it because it might not have a purpose. You know what I'm saying? Is
that your real reason, though, or is that the reason you tell yourself?
I think that's a real reason.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? I evaluated, in my mind, I evaluate all the way through.
Okay.
It's like, yeah, if I say all of that, then what? You know what I'm saying? I think about it that way. It's like, what's the outcome really going to be? Like, is it just me expressing myself, or is me expressing myself or saying whatever gonna really bring about the change that I wanted to bring?
Okay, so now we getting somewhere. So you expressing yourself to get to other people? No, just to get. Is it gonna change be heard?
Anything?
So you're not just expressing it. You expressing yourself to be heard, to make a change, right?
Not necessarily. Yeah, if it's gonna change, I want it to be heard. Yes.
So you don't want to be heard unless it's making.
I don't want to say anything unless it. All right. Prime example. I think this is a good example. At my job, right, we would have, I don't know when we was having meetings, but we would have a meeting with all the staff from the different hospitals. They would come. And so anyway, they will go over, different policies and stuff we can have in place, changes or whatever. But at the end, they will go around to every individual and say, "Do you have something that you want to say?" Right?
That they always want to get your last remarks and try to make
you know
it
what I'm saying.
Like,
So some people
like
are still complaining about this happening, that's hospital, that, and so it will come to me, and in my mind, I have a lot to say, but what would the purpose be? Meaning, if I said, I'm tired of the nurses doing such and such, will that change anything? It's not.
Okay, so boom, now we're getting somewhere, because what I'm picking up from you is like a validation. Like, why would your voice not be heard? Why would your voice not make a change? Because a person like me, like, I always got something to say. Any motherfucking complaint I had at the staff meeting, you best believe, me, but if I'm being completely honest, I was always uncomfortable with that. I really had to get to a place where I was comfortable with my voice, and I understand that the world needs my voice now more than ever.
Right.
So I guess I look at it as, what is it about you that you feel like what you say is not going to make a change?
Right. Well, somewhat. I would say somewhat. And
no, because you said you ain't saying it because it ain't making a change at all.
Also, let me add this in there as well, right? For me to say something and not care whether it changes anything, I guess it depends on my motive. Let me go back to that.
Motive is important.
Motive. I think that's key with everything. So, if I say something, my motive may be not that it will change anything. Maybe my motive is to let you know I ain't playing no more.
Alright, you ain't in the fucking mood.
Right. Or my motive may be to say, hey, y'all need to wake up. But either way, it would have to be like boiling over for me to get to that point. You know what I'm saying? Because sometimes what I might be thinking or whatever, I don't feel really passionate about.
Boy, when I tell you, I'm like the complete opposite. Aries, fire sign. When I tell you I can get passionate about anything, I can sit and literally get passionate about. And I think that's just like the sincerity in me. Like, I'm so pure, and I like, especially now, I've gotten to a point where I allow myself to feel unapologetically. So it's like, if I'm feeling this way, like, I'm gonna sit with that feeling. I'm gonna understand why I feel that way. I'm gonna talk myself through that. So. And I had definitely went through the motions, because ever since a little child, it was always like, oh, your mouth is going to get you in so much trouble. You need to stop talking so much, or you need to not say this and not say that. So I honestly think I was scared of my voice, and which people would not. I really don't think a lot of people would think that or understand that about me, but it's like, yeah, I was saying shit, but y'all don't understand how uncomfortable I was saying stuff. Like, even now to this day, I feel like I'm so compassionate or so caring about people that I spare their feelings, and I don't say a lot of the shit that really needs to be said. Like, right. You know you need to say something, but it's like I'm still finding a way to get comfortable with my voice, right. And find just that balance, because also it's not always the time to say something.
Right.
But then again, I feel like, why not?
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think
maybe I'm the one that's always meant to say what what I wanted to say and when I want to say it. Why does that have to be viewed as a bad thing?
I understand what you mean. Because I would say sometimes I even battle with it myself. I feel like maybe I should have said something, at certain times. Maybe I shouldn't have, or maybe I should have went about it a certain way. I don't know. So.
I mean, but that seems like more self-awareness, like, because you do want to, like, understand why you doing, like, so right. I don't think nothing is wrong with that. Like, when I had to think about mine, I really had to dig deep and know that mine came from my childhood, and right. But the part that fucks it up for me, I think, because I don't think I should have been scarred, because one thing I can say, I was raised to be very respectful, very, like, you just care about people, you just be kind, so I was never using my voice, like, even when it was said at the time, it was always my mom and my teachers, like, girl, your mouth gonna get you in so much trouble. And it was never me being disrespectful or being nasty. It was just always me saying some real ass shit, and they ain't want to get checked at the time. Because who are people to tell me my truth? It's like, why are we ashamed to tell our stories?
Right. So do you saying you find it hard to share what you really feel with your parents, or is it just people in general?
Just like in general, like when you realize your patterns, and it's just crazy because when I realized why I was so timid to say certain stuff, because it's like, and it's stuff that I know need to be said, I know stuff need to be heard, and when I had to think back to why I don't say it, I was like, oh, because my mouth was always going to get me in trouble. And I always was talking when I wasn't supposed to be talking. It was always my mouth. Always my mouth.
Right. So, I mean, what are some things that you're finding or have found, I guess, resistance to expressing?
My truth, which is the crazy part, right? Like, why are we uncomfortable talking about our truth? Like,
what is your truth?
Whatever it is that I experienced at that moment that I'm expressing. Like, you know, and one thing I can say that I'm growing to understand is that your truth can change over time.
Right, okay.
Like, it should change over time. Like, you know, it's the circle of life. However, if I said something, then that's how I felt at that moment. Right. And that's what I've acknowledged.
Right. I'm just trying to get into specifics.
Like what you mean?
Like, you know, like give me an example of one of your truths that you try to express that just wasn't received well.
Oh, that'll probably be something like with my parents, like, you know, and I think I know I'm not the only one, but I just think when you get older and you realize, like, okay, I'm this way because of that, and, like, you know, or I do this because of that. Not to necessarily say, like, and that's one thing I can say, Pete, I'm not saying it's a good or a bad thing. My self-awareness is just saying that it just is. You feel what I'm saying? It has been times where I've tried to talk to my mom and, you know, just tell her what my truth is, and it's like, well, that didn't happen, or that's not what I tried for you, or, like, you know, whatever the case is. And it's like, okay, great, I hear you. However, hear me. Right. I'm not asking you about your truth. I'm speaking mine. And I don't think parents realize just, you know, the effect that it take on kids to for you to just not validate them. Right. Like, I'm 27, I'm a grown ass woman, and you really are gonna challenge me and tell me that I didn't have those feelings and those experiences as a child. It's like, how dare you? You know? Right. And I just think parents should be more self-aware and just more accepting. I would just say it's the ownership part for me. But one thing I can say is my mom is much more accepting than my dad. Like, I don't even talk to my dad. So my mom, the reason why I see the difference is because my mom may not like what I have to hear, and it might take her a few days, like, you get what I'm saying, but she's gonna come back around. She'll let that click, or maybe she just love her kids enough to where she gonna take that and she gonna try to understand where they coming from. My dad, on the other hand, does not do that, and I noticed that's why I fuck with one and that's why I don't fuck with the other.
Do you feel like you were able to feel everything as a child?
Absolutely not. So I couldn't have, because if I did, I wouldn't be this way. Right.
And so now that it's kind of like in hindsight, you know, you seeing it clearly now because you have more wisdom, more experience. And do you feel like you're fighting to be heard because of things that happened in your childhood that are affecting you in your adulthood? Do you feel like you're fighting to be heard on those things, or is it because those things are genuinely affecting your adulthood?
Well, those things definitely did genuinely affect my adulthood. I would say now, like right now, this current phase is not. I would say no, because now I know how to self-validate, and it's like, you know, and it's like I love my daddy, like, and I'm gonna tell him this, like, yes, daddy, I love you with your hatred ass heart, like, get some healing, you know. Right. And I love my mama and I love my daddy. All I'm asking is to be her, and it was to a place to where I felt like I had to fight to be heard from my parents until I gave up that fight, like with my dad. And I just, no, I don't, why am I fighting to be heard from you?
Right. What are you trying to get them to hear, though?
I want them to understand certain areas that they failed me and acknowledge that. I'm not trying to make you feel bad about it. I'm not trying to beat you up about it. I'm not trying to say, because I got some good ass parents. Like, I'm very privileged, very fortunate. Good childhood, all of that. I'm just saying, like, you have to acknowledge all parts of yourself. When you get older, it's not just like you shit sweet and you deal with the parts of yourself that you want to. No, you have to deal with yourself to its entirety. Right. You get what I'm saying? Like, even the shit that I don't like about myself, I had to acknowledge, where did I get that from?
Right. So, do you feel like you're trying to hold them responsible for the bad parts?
Not just the bad parts. I hold my parents responsible for all parts.
Right.
Like, and I tell my parents that I'm appreciative of things, like, that we had. Like, I was probably one of the only kids in the neighborhood that did have a mom and a dad who grew up in the house. Like, certain stuff like that. And me getting older, like, don't think I don't understand the privilege. It's just now I'm to a point. I've honored and acknowledged the privilege all of my life, and now it's to a point where, okay, like, now we got to get some of that dark stuff. We got to acknowledge that too. It's kind of like, I know we don't really want to talk about it, but we got to.
But I guess I'm asking, why do you feel like you have to talk about it?
Because it's a part of my truth, and I've been in a place to where I've buried those emotions of not talking about it, and it's not good, and it's not healthy, and it's not beneficial for me. So I have to take other precautions.
So to fully heal, you saying
you got to do
you
all
have
of
to
it.
go back and deal with all of those parts with those people to be okay.
Yeah, it's that's something like is not just the highlights, the shit. Because we love to talk about the shit that we love about ourselves, which is good. We should definitely praise ourselves. However, I do not believe that one can fully heal if you do not do the inner work. Like, you really got to get to the root of it.
Right.
And it's not like it's a bad thing. That's one thing I think. I don't know if it's the older generation, or maybe I don't have kids yet, so it's like maybe it's just I don't understand. But I just I know it's viewed as like a challenge or combative or disrespectful when a child speaks up and says this. However, I'm just looking at, like, just me from just having a genuine heart and being a genuine person. It's like that's not my intention. I feel like people can speak their truths and not bash anybody, because, like, even when that's what I try to explain to my mom, just because I'm telling you these things about myself that I don't like, that I inherited from you, that's not saying that you didn't do a good job, because my parents did a good job. Like, even my daddy, like, to this day, like, he's different. He don't call and text and check on me, but he'll go put some money in my account. You get what I'm saying? So it's like shit like that, which I would rather him call me and tell me that he loved me. Right. But
maybe that's the only way he feel like he can show it.
And I understand that, but do I like it? No. Yeah. And that's the thing. You get what I'm saying? I feel like parents think their kids don't have an option to disagree with them or not like what they like, and it's like, what?
And sometimes
that's not okay. That's a control thing. You don't want your kids to operate. If I don't want my kids to operate in fear from me,
right?
So yeah.
But sometimes cool. as parents, that's some of the things that they do, or not even some of the things. Most of the things they do are based on the knowledge that they have. You know what I'm saying? Especially during that time, like your mom and dad were different people in the 90s or 2000s. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like
I was born in 93, P.
I'm saying I thought so, but what I'm saying is in the 90s, 90 to 2000, they were different people then, and then 2000 and 2010, they were another, they grew, you know what I'm saying? They evolved or whatever. So, their knowledge of things were limited.
Ownership.
But I'm not saying that they shouldn't take ownership of it. I'm just saying that we have to consider sometimes that people just don't know.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. And one thing I can say is that's why I went through that whole phase. Like, that's why I'm like, even just understanding where my mom came from as a woman, and like my grandma, like, knowing her experience that she had with her. So it's like, even my dad, like, when I tell you, I understand my parents, I understand parts of themselves that they ain't even ready to accept. That's how deep it is. That's how deep I went. Mm-hmm. You feel what I'm saying? Like patterns and shit that they may not even be able to see or may not want to acknowledge. I see that, which has honestly probably spared my relationship with them. That's probably what allowed me to still accept them as parents, because people have the option of cutting their parents off all the time. Mm-hmm. You get what I'm saying? Granted, our parents are our parents, but I think me understanding where my parents came from, it was kind of like, okay, yeah. However, that does not take away from my experiences.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? Like, we can understand people. However, that doesn't take away from our traumas, our experiences, and shit like that. So that's currently the phase I'm at right now. It's like, yeah, I understand them. However, I still need to heal. Right. That's all I'm saying. It's like, I'm not saying discredit to my parents, or like they did a bad job, or they didn't do good by us. It's just like, you got to take the good with the bad. It works both ways. Right.
And so you're saying that you can't heal if they don't acknowledge, I guess, their wrongdoings, or is it a personal thing?
No, I can definitely. I have to heal my own self, and then that's why I say the self-validation again is super important. So I definitely can heal. I'm in the process of doing that without their acknowledgement, because even because my dad, I pretty much accepted, like I haven't gotten like any difference in his conversation. Like, all he has been like, well, it is what it is. I am who I am. Take it or leave it type thing. Mm-hmm. And my mom, while she doesn't have that same approach, I'm getting the same feedback from our conversation. So, which is then driving me in the direction of like, why do you even need their acknowledgement? You get what I'm saying? Like, their validation. Then going back to looking at them as humans, like, they are parents. It's some shit that they just, you get what I'm saying? Like, they may not really see or accept or feel because they know that wasn't their intentions. Right. And I accept that too. So it's like, I don't feel like it's my need to press the issue to them, mm-hmm. but just more so like press the issue and acknowledge it to myself. So it's really not even about them. It's just more so like acknowledging the role that they play. Right. Yeah, because I take full ownership. Like, even right now for my childhood traumas, I take ownership for that, because it would be unfair. I ain't even gonna say it would be unfair to my parents. It would be unfair to me to give them that responsibility. Right. Because they did what they could. So it's on me. I take full responsibility for my own healing. Like, really. Okay. And it's not an easy thing to do, but at the end of the day, like, whose responsibility is it? Right.
Define trauma for me. When you talk about childhood trauma, what is trauma to you?
I think any experience that has been like suppressed, like damaging and suppressed. I guess that'd be an easy way to put, like, something that really kind of fuck with you, but it always been suppressed or like brushed under the rug or not fully acknowledged. Mm-hmm. I think that's what I would define as trauma, and that could be like on numerous things.
Right. What types of trauma do you think you had?
What type of traumas have I had? Honestly, I think probably all of my traumas have probably been from not being able to use my voice, or when I was using my voice, it wasn't being heard. And that stems from, like, being a child. That could be why I talk so much now, because it was so... And it's like, no, they won't saying like, oh, you can't talk or don't say this. Obviously, it's not like, they won't telling me to sit in the corner and shut up. You get what I'm saying? But it's always like, what? Watch your mouth? Mm-hmm. That phrase was made for me. Right. Like, yeah, watch your mouth. And I just, and then it's like, I work with kids. So kids help me nurture my inner child. So I look at it as like, if it's certain situations to where it's like, a child is like, a child can just be just being a kid. And how we adults, we in our own adult head, our own adult life, our own adult space, and a kid say something, and it could be something that you probably needed to hear, but you not receptive, and it's like, how dare you? And it's like that abuse of power. Mm-hmm. Like, so I can't say this because you in a bad mood type thing. Just like you shutting them down with your actions, and you make them feel like they can't speak up. So no, you don't have to tell a child to, sit in the corner and shut up. But it's like, what, are you being snappy at them? Are you giving them attitude? Are you taking away treats? Are you taking away privileges? What are you doing when that child does speak? Right.
So do you think there is a limit to how a child should speak to an adult? Because I do feel like there are limits. like I think I do kind of agree with what you're saying. I'm not saying that because I can kind of identify with it slightly, where you hear you need to know when a child should speak, or don't talk this way or whatever. But I also feel like if a child can speak to their parent a certain way, then that's rebellion against authority. It's kind of like, yeah, the thing is, you can say what you want to say, like we have freedom of speech, but that don't mean that there's not consequences for what you say.
Right. And I get what you're saying, because we all do go through our rebellious phases. And I'm saying, like, when I'm speaking for childhood, I'm saying, like, the most purest forms before you even learn what an attitude is or being snazzy. I'm saying I see parents full out going off on a 2-3-year-old for, you get what I'm saying, just showing genuine concern. At that age, being young like that, you don't know what having an attitude is or what ego is, or you get what I'm saying? You don't learn that till further up, when you get what I'm saying, when you learn manipulation. You get what I'm saying? Like, little kids is not born with that. So what I'm saying is, I think it just boils down to the ownership, because I also think about it like this, like when I say limits with kids, like I know people and I used to be one of them too, like, oh, kids don't need to be cursing, they don't need to be having full conversations like this. Bro, and it literally came to me in a dream, and that's how I know I'm so passionate about it, because I feel like if a child can formulate the words and put it into the right context, they should be able to say that. So we might got to check this interview in a few years. I might have a little cursing ass child around. Don't y'all say my kids are disrespectful, because they will not be. Okay. But I just think about it, and then also check this out though, and this is where it goes to the ownership, because how did this child know how to use these words in this context? Hearing it from who?
The parents.
But check this out though, because I know a lot of parents be like, oh no, I don't talk like that around my child, blah, blah, this and that. Oh, but who you let your child be around?
Right.
You get what I'm saying? Shit like that. Parents don't hate to take ownership, boy. And I just really pray to God, Peter, I'm not one of those parents, because that shit eats my heart up now, because it's like, I would just hate for my child to feel like I can't do no wrong. Like, I just do not like that.
Okay, I feel that.
And my mama always tell me it's going to come to bite me in my butt, but I also tell myself that I have to not listen to that too. You get what I'm saying? Because I create my own narrative. I'm not you, and I'm not your experiences. So you get what I'm saying? Like, I can't have what I want out here based off what that means for me.
Right.
So
I kind of see what you're saying.
Yeah, because then I have to, I guess I look at the difference in culture, because I work with a lot of like just Indian children, Caucasian children, and like seeing how well they communicate. Like I'm convinced that it's how we were created to look at each other, like just the black culture. Because how is it that other kids they're well educated and they're like they're proper, but for us it's slang and it's attitude and it's ghetto and it's disrespectful. Why do we do that to ourselves?
I totally agree with you.
Like as a culture, you get what I'm saying? Not obviously like you, but I'm saying like like just as a culture.
No,
like,
I really feel what you're saying. Let me tell you.
Those kids are well spoken.
I was telling Bianca this, because I was driving Uber and stuff, right? And I picked up this white guy. He had his son with him. That was
an experience.
And I was listening to the
dialogue. Listen to it.
And the difference is, he didn't do like we were growing out. Like, I can't speak for you, but like I heard growing up, it's like he asked a question, his dad gave him a full, thorough answer. Not, stop talking to me, I don't want to talk right now. Or because your parent not in the mood. Right. Thank you, P. Makes all the difference. Or because I said so. He didn't give him none of that.
Because I said so. Right. How are kids understanding because you said so?
He gave him a clear explanation. And it was like, it was little silly questions, but he answered them. And so that's how they are. Like
we need to get back to that.
You know what I'm saying? And I think also, and I'm not necessarily blaming it on black parents, but what I'm saying is we have to get out the emotion of everything.